Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ivan Ivanov, and I'm a founder of this UFO Disclosure Bulgaria channel in YouTube, and also the Facebook page UFO Disclosure Bulgaria. Today we have very special guests. We're going to talk for something super interesting. Maybe you heard about paranormal activities. Probably you heard about that some people, they have, we call supernatural abilities. People who can see in the distance, people who can use the mind to go in different dimensions and talk with another intelligent being over there. So my guest today will be Amman. He's an expert for paranormal. He's a paranormal investigator. He has a lot of experience. And also we have Rев Kat. She's our friend for a long time. I guess that will be a very interesting conversation. That is not an interview. We're going to talk like human beings, and I hope we can learn from each other. Please share that video with your friends, and don't be afraid, because we have to know what's going on over there and to be prepared. So the other guest I mentioned is Rев Kat. She's from California. She's assisting me with that video and the other projects I'm doing it. Also, she's a writer. She's a researcher for Prepare for Change, and also for ET Let's Talk, former deputy and former emergency medical technician. Probably you know about ET Let's Talk. This is a very interesting group, and Costa McCrees is founder of that group. So yeah, let's not lose time and start. And I'm going to say hello to my guests. First, let's start with Amman. Hello, Amman.
Hello. Hello, UFO Disclosure Bulgaria and all the people in Bulgaria and Europe. Nice to talk to.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you in this show. So can you tell us a little bit how started that with you? What happened?
Okay. So I knew you were going to ask me that, and I prepared multiple answers in my head, but I'm going to tell you the true answer, the real answer. When I was 12, my father passed away of a heart attack in front of me, and after that occurred, paranormal activity started happening in my house. Some people would call that poltergeist. Some people could call that human spirit haunting. I'd say it was a combination of both. But some of the things that would happen would be his photograph would fly off the wall at me, doors would kick themselves open, blinds would go up and down. So it started when I was, all of this started very, very young for me. And what ended up happening was I started researching the paranormal in order to solve the haunting at my own house, which I eventually, a couple years later, did. And I found mentors, teachers, and really good guides. And now I make it my mission to, assist people who are having paranormal problems in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Kat, what about you? How you started all this researching, your interests, your curiosity?
Oh boy, I've had curiosity since I was a child, and it seems that the female side of my family has a lot of paranormal experiences and intuition in their lives. So, you're interested because it's happening around you. And then we started taking classes. And in fact, I ran into the lady who was teaching us when I was just a teenager, and I'm in my 60s now. So I met her a year ago, and she's still busy doing it. And she says, oh, you've got these psychic abilities. You're really highly intuitive. So I went and paid a psychic to tell me I'm psychic. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, it's funny. I think that we're led to follow these things for a reason. And I started with religion and then went into parapsychology and metaphysics, the paranormal, and a little bit into the cryptids. not probably as much as Barry has. Yeah, I can see you, Amon. So it's really interesting. Everything kind of flows together, and you can't help but look into other areas because they seem very related. Maybe you can attest to that yourself. And one thing I loved about a recent article you wrote on paranormal investigations was how the electromagnetic field of your heart and positive emotions can have an effect around you. Would you like to talk about that and how you're using that information?
Of course. So I would refer everyone who wants to know more about that to the Institute of Heart Math. You can just Google that. They have proven that the human heart is an electromagnetic battery that is measurable up to and beyond 8 feet away with sensors. Human emotion has been measured. The electromagnetism of our cells are measurable now. The accumulation of all that are what the ancients called our aura, right? The shell of light around us that is created by our bioenergy. So I know that there is a language barrier, so I'm going to keep my words simple. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that our aura is strong and pure, because that acts almost in the same way as our regular immune system. So our skin protects us from viruses. Our aura protects us from energetic parasites, energy viruses, and other people's negative energy. And if we hold on to suppress trauma, or if we allow, I can get into this more later, but some types of entities can implant thoughts in our heads and make us experience trauma. And through that trauma, our aura dims. It gets darker. And I know I'm using kind of loose terms here, but just bear with me. If there is a shadow or a dark spot in our aura that's connected to unprocessed trauma, grief, anything like that, that is a resonance point. So that negative part of us that is not healed yet is in the same resonance with the negative entity. And through that, they can connect and get through our aura. It's like having an open cut on our skin and bacteria gets in. In the same way. Yes.
You say entity, who are they and where are they coming from?
Oh man, that's a big discussion. So there are a lot of different ideas about that. What I try to do is I follow the evidence. So in my report, I talk about 3 or 4, I think 5 different things, but that is not at all the totality of it. So I'll just cover 3 basic types of entities right now that one will encounter on a basic paranormal investigation, and I'm going to leave out the ufology and cryptids for now, just for the sake of discussion. If you're on a paranormal investigation, you're likely in most cases to come across either what's called a residual haunting, also known as an echo. So I don't know if you've heard, in the American Civil War, there was a place called Gettysburg. And there are reports, if you go to that area, of people seeing soldiers marching in formation still. That's because the land itself has been imprinted with the emotional intensity of an event. So it's causing that emotional event to replay on a loop. You'll see that in houses where they'll say like an apparition will walk through a wall, which used to be a door, at the same time every night or something like that. The phenomena is playing on a loop. You wouldn't necessarily classify that as intelligent. It's more of a physical phenomena happening in an area. The second type, yes.
Kind of like a tape recording that plays over.
Exactly like a tape recording. Exactly. The 2 terms I use for that is echo or residual haunting if I'm teaching a class, but I call it an echo, which is an easier term for me. Then the next thing that I encounter most would be a human spirit, which is the consciousness of a person who passed on, left their physical form, but for some reason is not able to move on to their next evolution, their next transition. We all call that process different things. Cultures have different names for it, but if we have too much trauma, or if we're unwilling to accept the reality that our physical existence is done, that can keep us attached here. And what I found in my research is, over time, the longer that happens, the more these beings tend to have sort of amnesia, or they forget who they once were, and they get wrapped up in whatever their primary emotion is. And what that will result in, it can be an intelligent haunting, but the way to determine if it's a human spirit haunting as opposed to the next type of haunting, which I'm going to discuss later, is a human spirit always has the motive or intention of communication. They want to talk to you. They're generally, in my experience, they could use some help. They're lost. So let's say, for instance, this cup is thrown across my room, the lights flicker, and maybe an orb appears. All of that is within the understanding that being is drawing energy from the lights, communicating with me by causing phenomena, throwing this glass. And once that communication happens through the phenomena, they've expended the energy that they have generated and will now dissipate. But the thing to remember is, they're not usually trying to scare you, even though you might be scared of the phenomena because it's unusual. They're not trying to scare you. And very briefly, the last thing I'll mention before I get off the entity topic, it's important to mention, is that unfortunately there are, in my experience, psychic parasites, negative spiritual beings who do not have your best interest at heart. These beings have many names, demons, archons, Chitauri, Popabao, Kanishibara. They're known across the world as different things, but they have the same phenomena. And all of this is written in depth in my report, but they generally manifest in three patterns. And it falls in line with what parasites do in nature. They will infest the area where they want to claim a host. They will then oppress the host through external and internal paranormal phenomena. And what I mean by that is, once they have decided that this is the area that they want to nest in, and my friend Buddy, our mutual friend Buddy, said something genius: never let a nest for negativity grow. Don't let yourself have a nest for negativity, because these things thrive in that nest. What their intention is they want to break down the free will, or the like I talked about, the aura or the spiritual immune system. They want to systematically break that down so that they can move through the stages of infestation, oppression, and then possession. And once the only way that a negative psychic parasite can influence a human mind is if they lower us to their level. That's why the first two stages are about breaking us down. Now, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, because Please. It's very interesting.
Please.
Have you had the experience with people who was possessed from this evil spirits, if we can say that?
I have, and it's weird saying this publicly, but it's the truth. Yes, I have experienced this, and it's very important to mention right now that we have to draw a very distinct line between mental illness and possession, because mental illness is real and it can look like possession, but the way I tell if it is a case of spirit infestation or possession is there will be paranormal activity around that person. It won't just be a mental phenomena. There will be other things happening. The doors will shake, the windows might break, things might fly across the room. No amount of mental illness can replicate that, unless we're talking about like poltergeist phenomena, but that's a different discussion. Mm-hmm. But usually, I don't want to get into that in this one, but usually if a person is truly afflicted, they will have multiple personalities coming through them. They will be much stronger than they should be. I've been kicked into the air by a 5'4" girl, little girl, kicked me into the air. I'm a big guy. She was more than able to match my strength. So don't just assume that because, you know, something's going on mentally that it's that. There are many factors that have to be in place before you can make an accurate assessment of that. And I wouldn't recommend someone who doesn't have training and experience trying to, because it can be pretty dangerous.
Do you have you performing exorcism? Do you performing exorcism?
Yes, but I don't call it that.
Right.
I use a more general term. I call it banishment, because exorcism is a very heavy term. People get scared when you use that word. Images come from, you know, Hollywood of all these violent things happening. So because there's a language barrier with this audience, so they can understand, yes, I do what you're speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
If the situation calls for it.
Can you just with few words, can you explain one of your fascinating case with doing this exorcism with someone?
Okay. Which one? Okay. Sure. I'll do the most recent one. This happened a couple weeks ago. Nowadays I work a lot of times via FaceTime or Zoom like we're doing now. Once you get the hang of it, you can even do that through FaceTime. I've done it a whole bunch. Not recommended for the beginner. In fact, it's actually dangerous for the beginner. So if you don't have experience, don't do that. But what a 15-year-old girl was brought to me by her parents, and she was experiencing things like she would be scratched at night, her foot would be pulled. She would sometimes go through periods of missing time.
Did she have the scars?
Yes.
Physical?
Yes. She was very frightened and felt as though this entity was bothering her from the age of 9 till the age of 15, lying about who it was, trying to manipulate her to do bad things. So nowadays what I like to do is I'll do what you're talking about, like an exorcism. I'll do that if I have to. But what I like to do is I like to teach the people to kick it out of themselves. I like to so what I find it much more empowering if I can teach this girl how to banish this entity herself. Of course I'm piggybacking energetically, I'm helping. But for the client to feel empowered, what I do is it's a very simple process, because all that really has to happen on a foundational level to do a banishment or an exorcism is you have to create enough positive psychic energy and positive emotional energy that has greater amplitude and frequency than that of the negative entity. On a scientific basic level, that's all that really needs to happen. How you get there is kind of up to you. You could do traditional like Reiki techniques. You could do traditional prayers. What I do is I simply have the individual focus on a positive memory in their life and close their eyes and mentally see themselves surrounded in a halo of bright white light. And I lead them through this meditation where I have them breathe in the light and then let go of all the darkness. They breathe in the light and let go of all darkness. And when they do that, I say, when you feel the energy in your body strongly, condense the energy into a ball of light in your hands. And the trick is, as they're doing this, they're purifying their own body. They don't necessarily know that, but that's the trick. As they're doing this, they're cleansing their body of the attachments. And then once that thought form, that you could use the word chi ball if you want, but once that image is strong enough and the emotions are high enough that it is stronger than the entity present, you then project that energy ball in the direction of the entity, see it explode in white sparks or whatever. And I've done this on numerous cases of various different kinds, and it has a very high success rate. And I think what that speaks to is that, like Kat was saying, this all comes down to consciousness. And like Buddy says too, this is all an interface, a quantum interface. I just am using that interface to do a certain thing. You can use that same interface to remote view, to do psychic healing. Just kind of depends on who you are.
So it looks like you have to believe that you can do that.
You do.
And to create that image in your mind, and then to make so stronger. So one moment will be getting like material form, kind of, I think.
Yes, we're on the same page. That is what I'm saying. And I had on my YouTube page, the Shambhala Institute, I have a space clearing guided video where I teach people a variation where you do that, but you put it into some charged water, and you use that water. It's essentially using that same technology to make holy water. If your viewers look up the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto from Japan, he has proven that water itself can hold a memory. You can use your consciousness to change the condition of water. So if we combine the mental imagery, we put it in water, we now have a solution that we can throw in a haunted area, and it'll cleanse the location. And yes.
So it looks like we can make something to prevent all these bad things to happening in our home or with ourselves. Yeah. Sometimes if it's a very serious case, I'll have people do the flooding of light technique where they see the light come into their body, breathe with it, condense it into a ball of energy, and instead of throwing it at the entity, which you can always do, you can also put that energy mentally into a bowl of cold salt water, and then you put that cold salt water in your fridge. Anytime the entity acts up, go to the fridge, get that salt water, throw it in the direction, start in the corners, move outward, or start in the most haunted area. And that's all available on my YouTube channel for free. So anyone who's experiencing haunting out there in Bulgaria or wherever is watching, check out my YouTube channel or message me personally at ab42berry42@gmail.com, and I'd be more than happy to assist you with your haunting free of charge. Okay, thank you very much for this. That is super interesting.